again. Good evening. I'm happy to call to order the August 6th meeting of the Town of Los Gatos Joint Town Council Parking Authority. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Thank you and good evening. Councilmember Stephen Leonardis.
Here.
Councilmember Diane McNutt.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Przinski.
Here.
Vice Mayor Barbara Spector.
Here.
Mayor Steve Rice.
Here. As is our custom, we have what we've identified as a future leader amongst our midst to lead us in tonight's Pledge of Allegiance. So in a minute, I'm going to call Matt Forbes to the front here to lead us in the pledge. But first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Matt. Matt is a second grader at Van Meter Elementary. And he didn't believe it, but yes, I went there too. His favorite subject is painting. I've got a house that needs a little different kind of painting. Okay. Last year, he helped his first grade teacher with the computers. Probably help your parents with the computers too, I bet, huh? And he's working on learning all the state capitals. He likes to play baseball, swim, do karate, water and snow ski, and fish. He worked hard this summer so he could buy a new pogo stick and hopefully a helmet to go with it. Please welcome Matt. Matt, come on up. And would you please stand for the pledge? Just stand right up here so everybody can see you. Your left hand. There you go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great job. Let's give him a hand. Down there and shake hands. Got a little gift for you here. Thank you. One more time. Let's give him a hand. All right, I'm going to move down to the podium down here, and I'm going to ask Diane Anderson, our president of our Los Gatos Chamber of Commerce, and Ronnie Nassi, the executive director, to come forward. They have a little presentation they'd like to make.
Thank you, Mayor Rice. Good evening, everyone. As mentioned, I'm Diane Anderson, president of the Los Gatos Chamber of Commerce, and joining me is Ronnie Nassi, executive director of the Los Gatos Chamber of Commerce. It's our pleasure to be here tonight to present the town of Los Gatos with a special award. You see, when the Chamber's annual call for nominations for Business Person of the Year and Business of the Year went out this year, we received one that made us scratch our heads just a little bit. Among the nominations we received for Business of the Year was a nomination for the town of Los Gatos. It took some time to wrap our minds around the idea of the town as a business, quote unquote, and decide whether or not to even accept the nomination. But the more we thought about it, the more we concluded that for a variety of reasons, it was in fact a valid nomination. Ultimately, Hobie's California Restaurant of Los Gatos was selected as the 2012 Business of the Year. However, since we'd received the nomination for the town, which has been recognized for excellence across a variety of fronts over the years, and this is an historic year with the town's 125th Jubilee anniversary, we decided that special recognition for the town was in order. The Chamber believes that the town of Los Gatos is an extraordinary place to do business, work, live, and play. It boasts an incredible location, an abundance of natural resources, a vibrant business community, and residents who love it dearly. And while things may not always be perfect, and everyone may not always see every situation in the same way, the strength of the town council and town staff, past and present, have created a community that stands out among Silicon Valley communities as a real gem. In fact, we like to call it the gem of Silicon Valley. And so it is with gratitude to those on the town council, and town staff who work diligently, responsibly, and passionately to make it so, and to those who have preceded them for the past 125 years, that we present the town of Los Gatos with an award of excellence to honor our gem of Silicon Valley, Los Gatos.
Thank you very much. Well, on behalf of the town, the council members, and our staff, who really are the ones who put forth the effort to be business-like and resident serving, we thank the Chamber for recognizing the town and appreciate the special partnership that we have with the Chamber in keeping Los Gatos the way it is. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Good job.
I'm going to put this right up here for tonight. All right, and the closed session report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. The council met in closed session tonight as duly noticed on the agenda. They took no action, and there's nothing to report out this evening.
Perfect timing. Okay, next we have council matters. Does anybody on the council have anything to report out? Seeing none. Manager matters.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, just a couple items from staff. This weekend is the annual Fiesta de Arts, sponsored by Kiwanis and numerous other charities and clubs in Los Gatos. So the Los Gatos Library will be closed Saturday and Sunday, given the activities occurring in the parking lots and on the Civic Center lawn. You can still drop off in the drop-off slot, though, and we'll be processing the books. Also wanted to announce that the Los Gatos Police Foundation is hosting their annual Taste of Los Gatos event on September 9th, Sunday, September 9th, and you can go to the Los Gatos Montessorino Police Foundation website to get information on that. And last, for those individuals who track land use and development items, we have an application for a plan development coming in from St. Mary's School and Parish, because the story poles, height poles should go up before the school is in session. For safety, the height poles are going up now for their new planned junior high that will actually come back to the Planning Commission and council later this fall. But just wanted to provide special notice that those height poles are up at this time and will be taken down as school starts. The last item on staff's report is a particularly important one. It's something we do at every meeting, and it's called Did You Know? But tonight's Did You Know will only happen once every 125 years. Presenting tonight's Did You Know is Assistant Town Manager Pamela Jacobs.
Good evening. Did you know that Friday, August 10th is the town's 125th anniversary? And we're going to be celebrating town-wide with parties in 5 parks throughout the town. Those parks are Bachman, Gatos, Blossom Hill, La Rinconada, and Live Oak Manor. The parties this Friday will be held from 6 to 8:30 p.m. And then at 7:30, everyone in every park will join in singing Happy Birthday Los Gatos, and that will all be videoed at each park. So afterwards, we'll have a wonderful film of the entire town singing Happy Birthday to Los Gatos. Neighborhood or service organizations are hosting the parties, and they are planning lots of fun, games, entertainment, some music. You should bring your own picnic, or at some of the parks there will be some food available. And everyone will have birthday cake, and the first 150 guests arriving at each park will receive their very own commemorative Jubilee fan and a Jubilee commemorative market bag. Hopefully you all received your personal invitation in your mail. This was mailed to all Los Gatos households. And we will have a special guest at each park, and that will be one of the council members. And if you stay tuned in just a little bit, you'll find out which council member will be at the park that you plan on attending. So please come and enjoy. The parties celebrate Los Gatos' 125th anniversary, and for more information, you can go to our website or call Jackie Rose at 354-6853. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. And as you said, we only do this once every 125 years, which is the, come on, Quasquicentennial. And that's why we don't ask you to say it. We call it a Jubilee year. So at this point, with the 125th anniversary Jubilee in sight, I'd like to invite Los Gatos Poet Laureate Parthenia Hicks to read her original poem written for the town's Jubilee. Parthenia.
Thank you. This poem is called Song of Los Gatos. However, as you listen to it, you may understand why I had a difficult time deciding on the final title, because originally it was Love Song to Los Gatos. And I'm probably the only person in town who might be able to invite everyone in the room, and the town council in particular, to close their eyes as they listen to the poem, if you like, if it feels comfortable. Song of Los Gatos. On a plump August afternoon of memories, sweet as the juice of wild cherries, we see her, jewel of the valley, gateway to the Pacific Rim, with her floor of silken grasses and her ceiling of oak and sycamore, redwoods and weeping willow, her creek trail, footpath of a million steps, her hand-blown glassy lake where on any simple day a small boat glides beneath. A small boat glides quiet as a breath as geese form a circle around her, fanning out like stars in the water. Her parks, so many, fill and empty with her people, her mourning doves and great blue herons, egrets, mallards, turtles, and solitary sandpipers, the jewels within the jewel. Her history is etched upon her face, earthquakes, fires, and floods that prop her up and build her character through all the links of time. Orchards, Forbes Mill, Billy Jones' Wildcat Railroad, Mountain Charlie McKiernan, the Opera House, a Brazilian soccer team, Netflix and the Apple Store, a state-of-the-art library. At the close of a warm yellow day, as children hide in oaken groves, when all her parks are filled with echoes, the shopkeepers lock their doors as the deer lie down like backyard dogs, and wildflowers close their mouths at the bluing of the moon. Her children begin to dream, while the spirit of the mountain lion stands like a holy sentinel guarding a prize. Where love is found, and lost, and found again, the unbroken song of Los Gatos lifts its steady voice. Thank you.
And for those of you that wish to read that again or hear that again, I believe that poem will be in next Tuesday's paper. There will be a supplement for the 125th anniversary. Tomorrow's, what did I say, next Tuesday? Well, tomorrow's the next, okay. Tomorrow's newspaper, there'll be a supplement, and that poem will be in it. Okay, we've got a few, because this is our quasquicentennial. I've said that so much, I just have to use it. We do have a few recognitions that I'm happy to share with the community, and one of them will be delivered in person, so I'll call him up in a moment. The first one is, I guess I can read it and then I'll tell you where it's signed. It's, I am pleased to join all those celebrating the 125th anniversary of Los Gatos, California. Such a momentous occasion is an opportunity to reflect on your community and the people who made it what it is today. Your community has been part of pivotal moments in our history. We endured the Great Depression and 2 world wars, drew inspiration from Dr. King's dream, and watched Neil Armstrong land on the moon. Today, as we work to fulfill America's promise, we look to our past for lessons on courage and determination. As America's journey continues, I hope you are inspired by the principles upon which our nation was founded and by the hard work and sacrifice of our forebears. Congratulations on this milestone. May you celebrate many more years together as family, friends, and neighbors. Signed by Barack Obama, President of the United States. Then we have a certificate of special congressional recognition presented on July 19th, 2012 to the town of Los Gatos at the 2012 Los Gatos Chamber of Commerce dinner in recognition of the town's 125th anniversary and service to the community, signed by Michael Honda, Member of Congress. And then from the California Legislature and the Assembly, a certificate of recognition. Assemblymember Jim Bell and Assemblymember Richard Gordon are proud to recognize the town of Los Gatos for your service and commitment to excellence and in recognition of your strong leadership that helps make Los Gatos the gem of Silicon Valley. From Jim Bell and Rich Gordon. And now, I'd like to invite a friend up to the podium. Former Los Gatos council member, former Los Gatos mayor, and current supervisor for the 1st District of Santa Clara County, Mike Wasserman.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here and see some familiar faces, some new faces. Nice job. Staff members and council, thank you all very much. And I think from what I heard from the chamber, if Los Gatos had served coffee cake, Hobie's might have been in trouble. So I just think, but anyway, Mr. Mayor, I have here from the County of Santa Clara a certificate of commendation, if you will, in honor and recognition of Los Gatos's quasquicentennial. Okay, there's no I after the S, is there? Quasquicentennial. Jubilee, 125th anniversary. I'm proud to have had a Los Gatos address for a third of that time. I know compared to you that's not a lot, but for me that's a lot. But I wrote a couple of sentences in here, and it ends up with, I commend the town of Los Gatos for 125 years of excellence. And it talks about the growth of the town. It talks about the uniqueness and the charm of this town. Los Gatos is, in fact, a jewel. Very, very, very special. It's my honor to have served with these people and staff before and to still represent the town of Los Gatos at the county level. And there is no better place than Los Gatos. And I'm really, I know everyone here calls it home, and it really is. It's home is where the heart is, and my heart is with Los Gatos. Thank you.
It's nice to have a hometown representative at the county. Thank you, Supervisor Wasserman. Now I'm going to invite Assistant Town Manager Pamela Jacobs forward, who's going to pass the hat in a different way, I hope. Well, I'm going to move up. I'm going to go up. I'll let you go. And we're going to pick which park each council member is going to be in on Friday. Yeah, so everybody, yeah. So I'll start, I guess. I will be enjoying the celebration with those that are celebrating our town's 125th Jubilee in Bachman Park. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, and I will be joining the folks at La Rinconada Park.
Councilmember Brzezinski?
Live Oak Manor.
Councilmember McNutt?
Delgados Park.
Let's see, what does that leave? Councilmember
One of my
Leonardis?
one of my favorite parks. I spent a lot of time here, Blossom Hill Park.
So we will see everybody, I hope, on Friday evening, starting at 6:30 in those 5 parks. And your council members will be joining you and leading you in the happy birthday song at 7:30 sharp. See you all on Friday. 6, not 6:30. 6, we'll see you at 6. All right. Now on to the more mundane business. I guess that's not really fair, but the regular business of the council. First is the consent calendar. Does any member of council wish to pull an item from consent? I see none. Does any member of the public wish to pull an item from consent? I see none. So I'll look for a motion. Councilmember Brzezinski?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next comes verbal communications. This is an opportunity for anybody who wishes to speak on any item not on this evening's agenda. May do so for up to 3 minutes. I do have one card, but if you wish to do so, you can certainly fill out a card and be ready to come forward after we hear from Chris Miller.
Good evening. So when I was 15 years old, I fell into a pothole on my street in the Glenridge neighborhood, and my parents suggested that I contact the Parks and Public Works Department at the time, and the Parks and Public Works superintendent said that promised that the paving was on the list. Well, I'm excited to find out 16 years later that my street will be paved, and I just wanted to thank the town for fulfilling that promise, and it's true that good things happen to people who wait.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Miller. Anybody else wish to speak on any item not on tonight's agenda? Last call? All right, we're going to move on. Agenda item number 11. This is adopt an ordinance between the Board of Administration for the California Public Employees Retirement System and the Town Council of the Town of Los Gatos to add a second retirement tier for non-sworn employees. And I think our staff report is...
The council has previously heard this on 2 prior council meetings, so we're just going to answer any questions if the council has them. This is to fulfill our negotiations with the non-sworn bargaining units to adopt a second lower tier of pensions effective 30 days, roughly 30 days from today.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on that? Of staff? And seeing none, it's a public hearing. I don't have any cards on this, but does anybody wish to speak on item 11? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion from council. Councilmember Brzezinski.
Move to adopt the ordinance as recommended by council, by staff, rather.
Have a motion. Is there a second? Councilmember Leonardis.
I'll second that. Do we have to also include attachment 1 with that?
I think that's in, that
That's
is
in the
what
motion.
we're...
That's
in the motion,
in the
right?
motion.
Yes. Thank you. Any discussion?
There's no.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 12, abatement of hazardous vegetation weeds. I'm moving too fast for you to get the nameplate up. Sorry. Staff report will be given by Town Engineer Kevin Rohani. Mr. Rohani.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Hazardous vegetation pose a fire danger in the summer months, especially in the hillside communities. And Santa Clara County Office of Agriculture Commission, in conjunction with the town of Los Gatos for the past nearly 20 years, has an annual program to abate weeds, hazardous vegetation as weeds in Los Gatos. How the program works, inspections are done, properties who based on the inspection would create a fire hazard, they're notified by a certain date to abate the weeds, and if they do not, the county has a contractor that performs that work, and the cost of that is billed and levied against each of those properties that are that have not done the clearing themselves. This year, over 114 properties were inspected, signed notices by the county agriculture's office. All except 11 performed their own clearing of weeds and They were all inspected again. Those properties who did not, county, through their contractor, performed the clearing, and the report is attached in this report. And upon the conclusion of this evening, if approved by the council, the cost of that abatement of fees will be levied against those properties through the county tax collector. This evening, we have a representative, Mr. Mo Kumra. He's a program coordinator for the hazards of vegetation in the county. If there's any question, neither the town or the county has received any letters objecting to the program or any issues pertaining to that. This concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. I don't have any cards on agenda item 12. Does anybody wish to speak to the abatement of hazardous vegetation weeds? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and look to council for discussion or motion. Councilmember Brzezinski.
We have conducted the public hearing to consider the report. I move to approve the said commencement report as indicated in attachment 1 in item 12.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item number 13. Abatement of hazardous vegetation brush. Mr. Rohani.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. This is the second half of our report, similar to the weed abatement brush, another program that the town of Los Gatos and Santa Clara County Fire has been working on for the past many years, and as part of annually is done. This year, again, the county fire department provide notices to the properties that upon the inspection, there was an issue with the brush and overgrowth of the brush, notified them set certain date to abate the brush, or the county would perform the work, the county fire, and bill the property owner. We're pleased to report that all of the properties performed their brush clearing. There was none that would require the county to perform the brush clearing. This concludes our report.
Okay, any questions of staff? Seeing none, I'll again open the public hearing. Anybody wish to speak on the abatement of hazardous vegetation, parenthetically brush? Don't all rush the microphone at once. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing, and Councilmember Brzezinski.
I have a question for staff.
Please.
Since we are not getting objections to overrule, is there a motion necessary for this particular item?
That's the question. Perhaps town attorney could respond.
While there's no resolution, the council may want to make a motion acknowledging that you conducted the public hearing and that there's no objections and that you've accepted the report.
All right, then I will make that motion as recommended by the attorney.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 14. This is a conditional use permit application U-12-004. Property location 424 North Santa Cruz Avenue. Property owner Los Gatos Shopping LLC. Applicant Michael Guerra and Joe Canastrasi for San Colagero Inc. Staff report is Jennifer Savage, Associate Planner. And we do have a desk item on this, a rather lengthy desk item.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. The applicant is requesting to operate a 990 square foot, 20-seat wine bar. The business would open at 3 p.m. 7 days a week. On Monday, it would close at 10. On Tuesday and Wednesday, it would close at 11. And on Thursday through Sunday, it would close at midnight. The establishment would serve wine, beer, and tapas. Alcoholic beverage service would be allowed only when food service is available. This requirement is different than the requirement that's for restaurants, where you have to actually serve meals in order to receive alcoholic beverages. On May 23rd, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the request with modified conditions for the hours of operation and the hours of alcoholic beverage service. I do want to walk you through the items and remarks in the desk item. It is important to note when reviewing a conditional use permit application that the key consideration should be the explicit use proposed, since the business plan can change from owner to owner. Although the deciding and recommending bodies should consider the information in the applicant's business plan, the CUP does run with the land, not the applicant. If the deciding body finds merit with the proposal, staff recommends an operational agreement condition, as noted in the desk item, to ensure the operation of the project is consistent with the applicant's proposal and to ensure any future changes to the business plan are consistent with the conditional use permit. Town code provides definitions of bar and restaurant, but not wine bar. Recent wine bar applications were conditioned to ensure that the project was operated in the same manner that the applicant proposed. Those conditions include explanations of retail wine establishments or wine shop and wine bar. The town's draft revisions to the alcoholic beverage policy include the definition for a wine bar as noted in your desk item. It should be noted that the conditions of approval require the establishment to operate in substantial compliance with the development plans received on May 23rd. A floor plan was included with the applicant's business proposal received in February, but it is not referenced in the conditions of approval. The wholesale bakery operation proposed for the rear of the project would operate at different hours than when the wine bar and tapas bar is open. Staff recommends revised hours of operation condition as noted in your desk item. The applicant submitted a draft menu, and that is included in your desk item as well, with 2 additional public comments. The north side parking lot is not in the parking assessment district or in the central business district, otherwise known as C2 zoning. Pursuant to the town code and resolution 1996-153, the subject shopping center is eligible for parking in lieu fees due to previous uses at the site that were non-conforming as to parking. The funds collected for these parking spaces are used to maintain the north side parking lot. This concludes staff presentation, and we are available for questions.
Okay, questions of staff, and I'm going to actually ask the first one, if that's all right. Top of page 2 of the desk item. Near the end of that first paragraph, it says the agreement shall be reviewed by the Director of Community Development and the town attorney biannually for the first 5 years and annually thereafter. I just want to make sure I'm reading that correctly. You're going to do it every other year at the start and then every year? Or should that be semi-annually and then annually?
The latter.
Okay. That was, thank you. If I have time to read the desk item, I can catch that stuff. Okay, other questions of Vice Mayor Spector?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I understand the desk item, there is a suggestion that we have an operational agreement encompassed within the approval. And my question would be, could we also, or instead, look at the first condition of approval that came to us, I guess, from the Planning Commission, and just change that to have the use be in compliance with the plans which I have sent to us on February 28th, 2012. Those are the plans that identify how the business will operate. The question simply said, do we need to have another agreement, or can we encompass that use in the first condition by referencing February 28th, 2012?
You could reference the business plan dated February 28th.
Okay, other questions for staff? Councilmember McNutt.
Thank you, Mayor. So I am the one who requested a generic paragraph. This is something that I've been thinking we should do for a long time in every CUP staff report that reminds the public, the Planning Commission, and the Town Council that it is a use that runs with the land, because sometimes we get so swept up with the excitement of the business plan and the menu that's before us, I think we spend too much time on that sometimes, because in fact, once the business opens, businesses change, and businesses have a life of their own, and they kind of go in their own direction. So the only way that we can control that effectively is to make sure that what is written in the conditions, the CUP, is really accurate, and we're comfortable with that. So I was not in any way suggesting an operational agreement, and I'm not excited about that idea for this business or for most of the businesses that come through on a CUP application. And we can talk about this more later after we hear from the applicant and get into council discussion. What I am interested in finding out from staff right now, though, is whether or not the term wine bar in the CUP is broad enough to allow the use on this land and this business or anyone that can come forward the flexibility to adapt to the marketplace, so that if this is a whole new concept, it's very trendy, it's likely to be very popular, but tastes change. And so if at some point it wants to be more of a restaurant than a wine bar, is that okay by calling it a wine bar? If people get so mesmerized by the fragrance of the bread being baked in the back, and they're clamoring to buy the bread, and all of a sudden it makes more sense for it to be almost a bakery instead of a wine bar, is that okay by calling it a wine bar? Or should we have words there that are more flexible, or do we not want to do that? Do we want to be so specific that it can only be a wine bar as defined unless they come back in? So my question for staff, we have much to discuss for council, my question for staff is, in your interpretation, does that term wine bar give that flexibility that I was just talking about?
It provides some flexibility, perhaps not full flexibility to go into a strictly restaurant, but there is some flexibility within that term.
So is it almost the exact opposite of what we normally do, where we say you can't have a drink unless you also have food, or we saying with a wine bar you can't have food unless you also have wine?
No, but depending on a business plan to operate the establishment, depending on how they operate a quote-unquote restaurant, it may change the condition. It may require a conditional use permit modification based on the conditions of approval for this particular establishment.
The attorney and I just had a side conversation. What brings this forward to the council as an obligatory council action is the alcohol service. So it's really the wine that's driving this consideration before you tonight. It's my belief, and the attorney could comment as well, that the approval of the wine bar concept tonight would obviously preclude any hard alcohol without further council and planning commission review and action. So that's a given with this wine bar designation. And given the business plan submitted, it would likely preclude a wholesale conversion to a brewery or brew pub away from a wine bar. But serving food is clearly allowed and in fact expected with the wine bar service. Unlike other restaurants, it's not required with wine. I think depending on what any subsequent change would be, it would ultimately be a staff judgment call whether it's a minor modification or a major modification requiring planning commission and council review if the change in service was so far away from wine and food that it required further action. But this clearly allows wine and food service at the establishment, but it doesn't require wine service with the food.
So, Mayor, if I could just...
Please.
So, to the manager or the attorney, I guess, would it, as we discussed with the applicant, could we add words, wine bar, as we have elsewhere in other places, wine bar / restaurant or wine bar / retail establishment that would broaden that a little bit? Would that be a permissible thing to do?
Sure. In the past, you have, as pointed out in the desk item, either done like a retail wine service establishment that has contemplated both the retail component, that if this wine bar were to emerge as their emphasis being selling Spanish products, their homemade breads, their wine products and things like that, then that certainly would broaden that. I think that was contemplated as part of the application, not to the extent that you've asked that if it morphed into that. With respect to the restaurant, as opposed to getting away from just the small plate, that again would need to become may need to come back to the staff for a minor modification. There are some restaurants that need additional equipment and conditions, or in some circumstances, a CUP is not really even going to be required for that. So be hard to encompass every possible operation that the current owners might contemplate in the future, but to be as broad as possible to give them as much operational latitude to begin with, you certainly could expand the definition and use additional words as you define the conditions as to what a wine bar is.
Mr. Manager.
Excuse me, following on those comments, what I just checked with Ms. Savage is that indeed the retail is no problem because that parking demand is less than the proposed use, so there'd be no challenge there. The one scenario we came up taking the idea of maybe the bakery smells so good it wants to become a breakfast place. The hours might be a problem because it's 3 later, and while it says the bakery is not restricted to these hours, a bakery restaurant that's primarily a breakfast serving place would probably be in violation of the use permit and would require an hours change.
Go ahead.
Sure, I would understand that. I mean, any kind of significant change like that, but I'm just trying to see. That's what I'm saying. So we know exactly what we're getting, and if we had extended hours, then we might have a different conversation. But just so we're really comfortable with what's in the conditions, both from their point of view and from our point of view.
So wine bar retail or wine bar restaurant retail would probably be allowed, and then if they wanted to become a Hobie's competitor, they'd need an hours change anyway.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? I'm going to call the applicants forward, and you will have 10 minutes to, a few weeks off. 10 minutes, up to 10 minutes. Please say your name. And
my name is Michael Guerra, and I'm one of the applicants for the project. And I've done this a couple of times, and my usual tact is just to say that I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. We've submitted all the information that we have. I just want to say one thing is that, I think a lot of people know that we just got back from a trip to Spain. We did a 7-day, I would say exhaustive trip, and to do some research on the tapas bars in a certain section of Spain. And we had a fantastic time. We're really excited to bring this concept to the town of Los Gatos. And I'd love to hear you talk, because I hope we have a discussion about the concept, because we're going to try and make it as authentic as we can. So hopefully we can talk more about that. But I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay. Did you want to speak? You're just going to, okay. Penn and Teller.
That's right.
Or Penn and, okay. Questions of the applicants? Councilmember McNutt.
Thank you, Mayor. So I want to make sure you understand what I am saying. I mean, I just from reading through the packet, and I can feel your excitement about this concept, but you've been in business long enough that things change. And Peruvian, I mean, I'm not a wine person, so I don't know, what might be coming along next. And so I think it's important that this is structured in such a way that you we all understand the flexibility, and that our conversation not get so locked into your particular menu on the day you open as it is the use that we are permitting in that space. And I think it protects both sides. So you understand what I'm doing?
Yes, and I appreciate that.
Because I remember in a previous conversation, it got a little,
Yes.
yes, you remember.
And it's interesting, having gone on this trip and seeing the way things actually happen in Spain. We did change things, and as you can see, the menu that we have there is the result of having gone there and seen and tasted, and so I agree with what you're saying. You know, we have a fairly clear idea of what we want to do and how we want to do it, but I don't foresee us becoming a bakery. I don't foresee us, becoming a brewery. This concept is very similar to what we're doing with Enoteca. It's a little bit smaller space. We're going to do a few more fun things food-wise, but the concept is pretty much that. We don't want to be anything more than that. Yeah.
Okay. Other questions of the applicant? Vice Mayor Spector.
Thank you. I thought Mr. Leonardis did. What sort of akin to what Ms. McNutt was discussing, what I'm looking at is a conditional use permit, which you've probably heard many times now, runs with the land. And I want to be comfortable that should, at any time in the future, you and your wonderful Tapa Bar leave or sell or whatever, that whoever succeeds you is also, beneficial to our town.
Mm-hmm.
So having said that, on February 28th, you filed with the town a description of your business and several other documents, including a letter of justification.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything since then? So we're quite 5 months since then, maybe 6. Has that changed? Is there anything in there that is now inaccurate for you?
I think it's pretty much the same. You're actually, I see that you brought up the bakery issue. That whole component is going to be much smaller than we had thought going into this one. We're more focused on having a complete menu that's authentic to the tapas bars we saw in Spain, and then it's just going to be the wine and beer service. So it's...
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Other questions? Did you have one, Councilmember Leonardis?
More or less for staff, perhaps, but while the applicant's at the podium, I thought I would ask of this. So, alluding to what Vice Mayor Spector said earlier about the operational agreement and the language from February 28th, is there a staff preference? And asking the applicant, are you okay with an operation agreement, if that's the way the council decides to go this evening?
Do you want staff to answer first, or do you want me to?
Staff first, I guess.
Staff does not have a preference, though it should be noted that the operational agreement has typically been recommended for establishments that may have operating issues with late night hours, which this establishment, as their hours are proposed, would not.
Thank you.
Preference in condition 1 would achieve the same result for this restaurant as an operating agreement, but with simpler language and less further follow-on work.
Thank you.
Okay. See nothing else?
If anything, to have the flexibility to expand with food, that, I think it's a good point. Do we intend on doing that right out of the gate? Probably not. Would we want to serve more food? Potentially, and it seems to be in keeping with, what the standards are and what the expectations are for the service of alcohol. So I would assume that if you could serve people more food while they're enjoying wine and beer, the better, and it would be beneficial to everyone if we weren't restricted to just small plates down the road.
Just for a point of
Madam
order,
Attorney.
to keep the record clean, if the speaker could identify himself.
Oh. Joe Kenneth Tracy.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. We'll call you back up to rebut any Anybody else that might wish to speak?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Manager.
Maybe just to clarify the discussion from council so far and to get a working proposal on the table. If you go to the conditions of approval as presented by the Planning Commission, it would really be, based on the discussion to date, 2 changes at the very top of the first page. And it would be requesting approval to operate a wine bar, restaurant, and or retail. So wine bar / restaurant / retail. And then in the first one, after it would be towards the end, with the development plans noted as received on March 23rd, 2012, and the letter of justification received on February 28th, 2012. And those latter 2 are in substantial compliance, not absolute letter compliance, while the rest of the conditions are absolute compliance, such as hours, alcohol service restrictions, and the like.
Okay, everybody clear with that? Thank you. I have no other cards of anybody wishing to speak on this item. Please come forward. Go ahead and turn your card into the clerk, then go ahead and go to the microphone and identify yourself if you would be so kind. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Jorge Bianchi, and I am a consulting partner with Joe and Mike. I am from Spain. I'm from San Sebastian. I've been collaborating with this project for the past few months. I live in Los Gatos. I grew up in Spain, and I've been living here for about 10 years now. And I just want to tell you that I am very excited that we are bringing to Los Gatos a very authentic tapas bar to Los Gatos. Los Gatos is a culinary destination in not only the Silicon Valley, but in California. And San Sebastian is where I grew up, and we're trying to replicate a very fine culinary tapas place. And I think that after our trip to Spain, we have all the ingredients necessary to make it a very exciting destination for all the gastronomes in the Bay Area.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, welcome to have a seat. Last call. Anybody else wishes to speak? I see a card coming forward.
Okay, here's what I've got.
And if you could identify yourself, please.
Kyle Smith. I just wanted to voice my support for these guys and their ventures. In the short time they've been here, I think they've done a great job. They've also given back to the community. They do support a bike team that they've generously sponsored. So they haven't just been somebody that's kind of been there and taking from the community. They've also been giving back. So I wanted to show my support for them.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Great, thank you. Okay, last call. Seeing none. I'll ask the applicants if they want to come back up and rebut anything they've just heard. Okay, any other questions of the applicants from council? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and look to council for further questions or a motion. Councilmember Brzezinski.
I think I'll go with the motion, Mr. Mayor, and we can discuss as necessary. I've been trying to put together some of the various issues that have been surfaced in our discussion, and the motion is subject to revise as people hear things that perhaps were not discussed or want additions. I'm going to make the motion that, first of all, we'll make the required findings as indicated in attachment 1 in our staff report, and approve the conditional use permit U-12-004 with the modifications recommended by the Planning Commission, including the following. In the introduction to the conditions of approval, this will read, requesting approval to operate a wine bar, restaurant, this is wine bar / restaurant / retail establishment on property zoned, etc. Okay? That's the first change. Pardon?
Are you on Exhibit A of Attachment 2?
That's exactly right.
The August 6th.
Yes, I'm
dating.
sorry for that oversight. So that's the first correction on Exhibit A of Attachment 2. Then getting to Planning Division 1 approval, it should read as follows, and this is accommodating the Vice Mayor's amendment. This application shall be completed in accordance with all of the conditions of approval listed below and in substantial compliance with the development plans noted as received on March 23rd, 2012, and the letter of justification of February 28th, 2012. Okay. Everything else reads as indicated. When we get to hours of operation, I'm going to include the amended hours of operations as indicated on page 3 of the staff report. The change to that particular condition would read as the desk item noted. Maximum hours of operation for the wine bar are Sunday and Monday 3 to 10 p.m., Tuesday and Wednesday 3 to 11 p.m., Thursday through Saturday 3 to 12 a.m., and then the bakery is not restricted to these hours. That's the amended language.
And that was from page 3 of the desk item?
That's correct. And I believe that is motion 1.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I will second the motion. And just very briefly, I was sympathetic. I'm looking at this pursuant to our conditional use permit ordinance and also our alcohol and beverage policy. And I was sensitive to, I think it was Planning Commissioner Bourgeois, who voted against it at his level because he saw it as a potentially standalone bar. And so with that in mind, I was thinking, well, it is a long bar. It isn't required at this juncture to serve food with the wine and beer. So if some other operator or owner came in, they could technically use it as a standalone bar. And so therefore, the conditions that the maker of the motion has included and that staff has recommended, for me, makes it very comfortable, so I can support it, second it, and like I said, I'm comfortable with this concept, comfortable with these owners. I want to be comfortable with every owner in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and call the question. Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Mayor, I do believe we have to adopt a resolution.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
All right. I'll move to adopt a resolution of approval with recommended conditions for the conditional use permit to operate a wine bar / restaurant / retail operation as indicated on attachment 2 on property zone C1.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Did the manager have something?
Just one clarification, should anybody be asking. Off-premises sale of beer and wine, since we've included retail, would be a separate alcohol beverage control permit that would require separate review by the Planning Commission before that could ever occur. So just wanted to make it clear to the council and public that the retail is not alcohol retail without further review.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
For wine sales that are
Okay. We're going to move on to item number 15, which is a conditional use permit U-12-008, property location 160 West Main, APN 529-03-020, property owner Robert and Muriel Brower, LLC, applicant Linda Lazat. Consider a request to approve conditional use permit U-12-008. Councilmember McNutt.
Thank you, Mayor. I do not know this applicant, and I do not have any direct financial relationship with him. However, I do have a business interest that could be perceived as a conflict of interest, and therefore I'll be recusing from this item.
Okay, thank you very much. You're excused for the, since this is the last item on the agenda. And once again, I'll look for the staff report to Associate Planner Jennifer Savage.
The applicant is requesting to modify the hours of operation for an existing restaurant with a separate bar and provide live entertainment. The applicant is requesting to operate on Sunday from 9:30 a.m. to midnight, Monday through Wednesday, 5 p.m. to midnight, and Thursday through Saturday, 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. The proposed project would remove the partition between the dining area and the bar area. The applicant is proposing to provide a DJ during special functions such as corporate parties and holidays, up to 8 days a month. The applicant would use an amplified sound system to provide background music during other hours of operation. The police and community development departments have expressed concerns that the project could result in a bar-like atmosphere during late night hours. On July 11th, 2012, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the request with modified conditions for closed sections during specific hours, hours of operation, hours of alcoholic beverage service, and live entertainment. Staff would like to note the difference between maximum seating and maximum occupancy. Maximum seating is primarily based on available parking, and maximum occupancy is often different from this because maximum occupancy, which is established by building and fire codes, accounts for non-customers such as cooks and wait staff. At no time may the business exceed the maximum seating or the maximum occupancy. In other words, a business would be limited to whichever is more restrictive. The desk item includes proposed revisions to the seating condition to stress that the occupancy may not be exceeded. Although the town does not typically condition maximum occupancy, the town limited maximum occupancy of 3 more recent applications. This concludes staff presentation, and we are available for any questions.
Okay, looking to council for questions of staff. I see none. So I'm going to call the applicant forward, and I have the cards, which are Linda Lazat and Bobby Sarvenst. Okay, and you'll have 10 minutes, and that is combined for however you wish to split it up. Before you start, though, and before we start your time, I'm going to ask council for disclosures. Start, Councilmember Brzezinski.
I have visited the exterior of the site and have met with the applicant and the applicant's representative.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
Same thing.
And same thing for me as well. Councilmember Leonardis.
Same for me as well, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the reminder, Vice Mayor. Ms. Lazat.
Mayor Rice. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the council. My name is Linda Lazat, and while I'm portrayed as the applicant, I'm representing the applicant, who really is B&G Group. And I'm here to speak to you briefly about our response to the recommendations of the Planning Commission, and then my client, Mr. Sarvingent, will come up and give you a visual picture of his vision. What I have up here, and first of all, I want to say that we agree with the recommendations from the Planning Commission. With the exception, we have a little tweak we want to do to the hours of operation, and obviously we are still requesting the ancillary music, which I will address to you. What we're offering is a sophisticated restaurant with an ancillary bar, 6 seats, not a bar, and ancillary music for a maximum of 8 days a week. We're offering Sunday brunch, dinner, and a late night Asian Peruvian alternative dining experience. We're requesting the extended dining hours to offer a different venue and to accommodate late night diners. The reason I have this diagram up here, which is attachment, I believe, 10 to yours, is I wanted to distinguish our restaurant from Valeriano's. And as you can see, the line that goes down the middle of the bar there, the restaurant, that is the separation between the restaurant side and what's obviously the bar side. We're going to be taking down that wall and turning the whole thing into a restaurant. There will be no bar, with the exception of the little section right here. and that's going to have approximately 6 seats. And when we have a DJ, it's going to be less than that. And on Sunday, it's not going to be used at all. So it's really an ancillary bar that's really there just to facilitate the restaurant. Justifiably, you might be concerned, as the police have expressed, about an increase in the hours for an establishment that was primarily a bar. We are not a bar. We are a restaurant that has an ancillary alcohol service. This is a restaurant. We will have food service available whenever alcohol is being served, as per Condition 9. There is a small bar area, again, that is ancillary to our use. Getting to the little tweak we want to have with regard to what the Planning Commission recommended. We are requesting that we have a Thursday close at 1:30 as opposed to 11:30. We believe, as you've seen in the applicant before us, that the weekend really starts on Thursday. So Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we're requesting to be open until 1:30. And this is in order for us to be competitive with the 13 other establishments in Los Gatos that are open after 1 o'clock, 7 days a week. We're requesting that 3 days a week. So that it's just a small tweak to what the Planning Commission has recommended. Our business model is to attract the typical dining crowd, but also late-night diners, sort of like in the Midwest, in Europe, they come to a restaurant and they eat late. They go to the theater, then they come for an evening. And we're hoping to get some of the people who are coming out of the pure bars that you have in town coming here. We also need the late night hours on Thursday because of the music that we're going to have 8 times per month for special private parties. This brings me to the music. We are requesting a musical host that is an ancillary use to the private parties. This musical host will only be used a maximum of 8 times per month, only during the private parties. These are closed private parties where the whole restaurant has been reserved for a private function. This isn't your typical music. We're not going to be rolling in amplifiers. It's going to be hardwired into the system. The musical host will come in, plug in an iPhone or a CD player and play music for us. It is not going to be a nightclub. There is no dance floor. My client is going to show you some slides of what we envision the layout will be, and you'll see that there isn't the possibility of turning this into a nightclub. Without the requested hours and the ancillary music, we're at a competitive disadvantage, and it would frustrate the vision for an upscale alternative dining experience that we want to bring to residents and visitors of Los Gatos. We agree to adhere by any policy that the council hereinafter enacts with regard to entertainment. And now I'm going to turn it over to my client, who's going to show you visually what this restaurant hopes to accomplish.
I also, good afternoon, Bobby Sarnovich. I also printed out hard copies for those of you that may want one. So this is the address, obviously. This is the new proposed floor plan. What you can see is the bar has virtually been compressed down to, about a third of the size that it was. And the seating that is being put in now is all booth seating that is not movable. So it's actually prefabbed, and then it's it's installed in the floors. So I know that the concept of the music, I remember somebody asked me, well, you could just kind of move the furniture away and create a dance floor, and it would require a carpenter to come in and kind of do that work, so we probably would stay away from that. This is a conceptual image. If you're looking from the outside in, obviously we're not changing the wall, but this gives you kind of an idea of the booth seatings and the fixtures. Once again, it's strictly, you can see an immovable restaurant seating with, the eyes are a little bit weird. I don't know why they put that, but those are TVs. Also a high view. So you also get really kind of the same idea that the tables are the only thing that are movable, and that's just to accommodate different size of parties. At the Planning Commission, we didn't bring a menu or pictures of the food, and that was kind of brought. So I brought a few slides of kind of the concept of the restaurant, and I'll flip through them very quickly. This is what the wall and the bar are going to look like. Basically, those mirrors are digitized art, which is actually pretty cool. For example, when you're displaying a a painting, it can actually look around at you, and I've saw that. It was a pretty interesting concept. Here's really just a high-level concept about how the restaurant Nobu itself has started. Basically, it was a sushi chef in Los Angeles who spent a lot of time in Peru, partners up with Robert De Niro, and they opened a significant chain of these restaurants. I believe they probably have about 30 or 40 of them across the world, actually. And the head chef who we've partnered with was one of the founders of this, and so when they sold off, I think they sold it to Morgan's Group or whoever bought their hotel. He's retired, and so he wanted to kind of make this concept the way he wanted to make it instead of the mainstream commercial one. And so here's some of the cold dishes that are being offered on the menu. As you can see, it's Japanese, but it does have a bit of a Latin flair to it. More of it. I have that all printed out if you wanted to examine it further. Nobu did get into some trouble for serving bluefin tuna, which is considered endangered. We will not serve this. Promise, if anyone's interested. Here's some pictures of some of the items. As you can see, the names are really difficult for me, but I think this is some kind of tuna. Lamb chops. I'm not even sure if this is from the restaurant. I just had this picture. I think I threw it in. This is a black codfish. It's really popular dish. You get a higher resolution image of it. Some other stuff. Sorry, I'm not really good at this. And then some caviar based. So you kind of get the
hang on one. Oh.
Sorry. Oh yeah, I think that's the end actually. Yeah. So that was it. And that's all I have.
We stand ready to answer any questions, except about the food.
Okay. Town manager.
I did want to request a copy of the presentation to the town clerk, if that can be delivered. And second, I wanted to clarify condition 9 in the conditions of approval. It's a condition the council's well familiar with. We provide it for most restaurants, and I just wanted to clarify from what the applicant's representative said, that the service of alcohol is permitted only with food service, so there could be no alcohol service without a meal also being served. And just wanted that to be crystal clear in the record, that that's the precedent and meaning of that condition. So no alcohol service without meal service to the exact same customer.
We understand that.
Okay, great. And then second, the 8 events, just want to make sure a cover charge wouldn't count as a private event. They would be where somebody books some or all of the establishment in total, and public can't buy admission into the event.
Yeah, that's correct. It would be for corporate partners who would basically reserve the whole restaurant. We wouldn't allow any, it would be just exclusive to their guests.
Okay, thank you. Questions of the applicant? Councilmember Brzezinski.
Yes. The Plan Commission thoroughly vetted your proposal, and they came up with the recommendation under live entertainment to not approve that portion of your application until such time as we have completed our entertainment studies and come to conclusion. We have a couple of projects that are in pilot stage, so to speak, that we are looking at in relationship to the evolving entertainment ordinance language. My question for you is this. The significance of the disc jockey for your business plan as you go forward. I understand this is a restaurant. It seems ancillary to me, particularly given the fact that you're describing, a very high-end, very unique kind of a restaurant establishment, looking for a particular niche market, a certain clientele. How does that component that was excluded by the Planning Commission, how can you indicate to us its essential nature in the opening of your restaurant?
Well, the whole concept of kind of the Nobu / Japanese fusion does entail music, and not necessarily a DJ nightclub type music, but it does have the background and more the that type of environment. But the big focal point of the restaurant is obviously, for us anyhow, is the corporate events, which, you know, in another life, I'm in the healthcare business, and we do a lot of events for companies like, you know, Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson. And so almost part of the genesis for starting this restaurant was a place to be able to consolidate all of our events into. And it's not that we have these big raging parties, it's just they do a lot of times require the use of ancillary audio equipment and potentially sometimes a DJ for those events. But they're not, you know, it's by no means a nightclub. In fact, it's mostly boring doctors. You could see it's not really that fun. So it would be highly detrimental to an aspect of the revenue stream that we're basically counting on to help ramp the restaurant up as it's becoming famous or popular.
Mr. Brzezinski.
And why have you chosen 8 as the monthly number?
We'd never picked a number, and then one of the council people said, well, what about 8? And we said, okay. So that's kind of just, I mean, 9's good too. I mean, I don't really have a, no.
I think what we didn't want to do is absolutely say every Friday and Saturday we're gonna do this. But when Bobby was talking to me and we went out to discuss with staff and with council, you know, what was this all about? Why did you need this? And why isn't it just, in fact, staff wanted us to say just Friday and Saturday. And I talked to my client and he said, well, no, occasionally, you know, they want to book it on a Wednesday. They want to book it on a Thursday. And so it's essential to these functions that he's been having at other venues. He wants to be able to bring what he's been doing at other venues to his own restaurant, to Los Gatos, and have the ability to bring new people into Los Gatos who will then, after their function, go and see the rest of Los Gatos or come back and say, hey, we just came to Los Gatos for this function, but let's go downtown and see what else is happening, you know, some other night. But the music, you know, I guess 8 came sort of in a group discussion of various discussions that we've had, but it definitely isn't Friday, Saturday. And 8's the maximum. You know, that's why we picked it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Leonardis?
Assuming you are approved this evening, what would be your time frame in launching this endeavor?
We'd like to start construction as soon as possible. So as soon as we can pick up our permit, we would start construction. 2 months, hopefully. I mean,
so when you say start construction, how long do you anticipate the construction period? I guess how long would it be until your doors open?
Assuming we were able to pick up a permit this week, probably about 8 to 10 weeks.
Are you currently in an agreement with the landlord where you're paying rent to reserve the space while you're going through this process?
We don't really have an agreement. We've just been paying him rent for 6 months while we wait.
Okay. Thank you.
And to that question, we're already, you know, have plans and all the way through the building department. We're just waiting for this hearing, basically, to pull the permit.
Okay, further questions? Seeing none, I'll open it up to other members of the public. Thank you very much. I have no other cards. Anybody else wish to speak to this item? I see none. You're welcome to another 5 minutes if you want to rebut anything you just didn't hear. Okay. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and I'll open it up to council for discussion, questions, or a motion. Councilmember Leonardis.
I'll dive in first. I have some questions for staff. So a lot of times restaurants in town will get rented by a particular group. One that comes to mind would be the Los Gatos Social Club, where they go and they essentially take over a restaurant for the evening. And what would preclude this applicant from just hosting an event exclusively for a corporation in his restaurant? Would he need some kind of special permit supposing that we don't approve this the way it's proposed or recommended by the Planning Commission?
No special permit would be required.
So, what would preclude the applicant from having a entertainment disc jockey type person coming and being a host to that party on any particular evening, assuming that we were to approve the restaurant but not the disc jockey concept?
The DJ component has been considered entertainment in the past by staff and would require a conditional use permit, so that if the use is not approved through the conditional use permit, it would not be permitted with a corporate party.
And if I might reference, the alcohol beverage control policy explicitly says the town shall continue to discourage applications for entertainment establishments serving alcoholic beverages. And I think that's why staff recommended denial of an across-the-board DJ allowance, because that would be in violation of prior council policy unless the council chose to approve it, which you could or could not do based on the applicant's representations.
Follow-up question, if I may.
Okay.
So the way it's proposed, they've come up with a number of 8 times a month, which seems like a lot, with no kind of definitive dates of when those 8 times could potentially be. Will it be every single Friday and Saturday evening, which looks very suspect, or will it be, it equates to 96 times a year. Will it be all of December and January and February and nothing during the rest of the times? We don't know. I guess where I'm coming from is we don't have entertainment policy in place yet, and we are making some amendments to our alcohol policy, and I guess this is coming in the next 6 to 8 months, potentially. We'll have these things nailed down. In the interim, while he's putting together this concept, is there an opportunity for the applicant to apply for special uses rather than coming to us and saying, hey, I want to do this 8 times a month and approve it this way, or it's not going to work altogether? If he comes to us in 4 or 5 months and he says, I have a corporate party this particular Wednesday night, and I'd like to know if you would host, if I can host or have a DJ, for lack of a better description, host this one particular evening for a pharmaceutical company, would we just absolutely not grant him like a one-time permit for one evening to do that? Is there any exception to the rule on that?
Town code does have a provision for what's called a special event permit, though it's highly unlikely that the event contained within the restaurant would qualify for a special event permit. So to answer your question, there would not be a means to grant a one-time event with a DJ.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? Councilmember Brzezinski.
Yeah, I have a clarification on the desk item that was presented us. And it actually was in the report itself, but this is in paragraph 2 of this desk item. It deals with the maintenance of the current CUP in terms of the numbers of seats. 72 seats until 5:30, 108 seats after 5:30. And we know about the occupancy relative to, fire marshal and those kinds of things. Is this a pro forma, the 108 seats, which was in the current CUP, or is there an actual proposal that 108 seats will show up in the restaurant in the hours so designated?
The seating limitation, both the 72 until 5:30 and the 108 after, were limitations on, or are limitations on the existing conditional use permit. Although the applicant in their seating plan do not propose 108 seats at this time, it is their intent to maintain that limitation so as not to lose it from the conditional use permit.
Councilmember Leonardis.
Another question for staff. The current use of the bar allows them to serve drinks without food 7 days a week till what time?
Till 1:30.
So with what the applicant is proposing, the current alcohol policy is more lenient than what they are actually would get approved for if the council decides to let this proposal move forward as written.
Did you ask if the alcoholic beverage policy was more lenient?
It seems to me like the existing policy is more lenient than what they are asking for. In other words, based on the Planning Commission's recommendation, they will have to serve food throughout the whole space, as opposed to now there's patrons that can just visit the bar till 1:30 every single night and drink and leave without the food. Is that correct?
Thank you for that clarification. So the bar area that they're proposing is significantly smaller than the bar area that the existing CUP was approved under. The concern that the community development department and the police department have in regards to a late night hour operation atmosphere comes from that change. In the existing floor plan, you have a separate dining and a separate bar area. When you open up the space without that separating wall, although the bar itself is smaller, you have sort of an open area to lend itself to alcoholic beverage consumption. So your question on whether the alcoholic beverage policy is more lenient, I see the reasoning, except that it's slightly different. So the existing CUP does allow them to operate till 1:30 in the bar area without requiring food, which could be seen as more lenient in that part of the establishment. And they are asking to then operate while requiring meal service, but later hours. So there's two components. The hours, they're asking for more lenience. The food, they would be less lenient.
Just one follow-up question.
Okay.
So the remaining 6 seats of the bar that will be reconfigured, that will have food service required as well at that bar, or is that still standalone bar where no food will be required?
We were not separating out the food service there at the bar at the 6 seats. Therefore, they would require meal service with alcoholic beverages.
Thank you.
Okay. Vice Mayor Spector.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I felt as though the Planning Commission, it's not I felt as though, what the Planning Commission was doing was following, as far as I could tell, our current alcohol policy. And under that policy, they established the hours of this operation. And under our alcohol policy, there's no entertainment until we develop an entertainment policy. And I support what the Planning Commission did. And I also support the idea of not doing entertainment conditions on the fly. I believe that we have to have the town and the neighbors and the businesses weigh in on any entertainment policy or any change in our alcohol beverage policy. Because, for example, we might say, well, the company's weekend starts on Thursday night, but for the people who live on Main Street or on Broadway, their weekend may not start on Thursday night, and so they might want to weigh in how we establish our entertainment policy. So we don't have a motion on the floor yet, but I just wanted to say that I listened carefully to what the Planning Commission did, and I felt that they were right in following our current alcohol beverage policy.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of staff for a motion? Councilmember Przinski.
Yes. I hear one distinction that was requested by the applicant that runs counter to what the Planning Commission recommended, because I am in great measure in agreement with the Vice Mayor. That I thought the issue for us is to look forward to an entertainment policy, to establish what that is, to use the current experiences of Los Gatos Bar and Grill, for example, which in effect became a pilot with some definite recommendations from our police department regarding their track record as an establishment in San Jose, and very rigorous determination of security and all those things that were to go to constraining any late night impacts on the neighborhood. We have evidence in the last few months, as we're watching this go forward, that there have been impacts that in some ways have been mitigated but have not completely been mitigated. So that's yet to be determined, and we'll use that as data for our entertainment policy ultimately. I'm assuming that the entertainment policy will probably be able to come back to council somewhere in the beginning of the year, so that we can start to put some parameters to that. I also feel that the issue of Thursday night is an open issue I'd like to hear more council comment on. In the town, downtown, the weekend really does start on Thursday. And you know that if you try to get a parking place on Thursday evening, that's when the weekend starts. And so the argument made, I believe, is the Thursday night request for an 11:30 close is predicated on the fact that that's really when the weekend and the use of our restaurant establishments is pretty much up and running. So I would be interested in considering that or getting feedback regarding that. But I, with the Vice Mayor, feel that the Planning Commission's decision relative to what we're defining as entertainment, and I do think at this point it would be easy for us to see disc jockey as falling into the category of entertainment, as the staff has recommended. I think that would be something that I would be disinclined to look at or consider, at least at this point in the application. But I would like to have feedback about Thursday as the beginning of the extended hours from the rest of the council, because I'm ambivalent about that.
Okay. May I wish to comment? Councilmember Leonardis?
Well, since Councilmember Przinski asked for feedback, I will provide some on the Thursday evening. The previous application that we just ruled upon, I think we allowed them 12 p.m. on Thursday. There aren't really any residents that I would feel would be affected by later hours on a Thursday evening in that particular location. In this location, my concern is there are residents on Main Street right above the Le Boulanger restaurant, sandwich shop, whatever we call it. So that would be my biggest concern. When I think of myself, I typically go to bed at 11:30 every night. That's when I finally crash. But it just depends on one's point of view, whether it's 11:30 or 12. I'm not really sure. That's general thoughts from me.
I'll weigh in. I guess the word Councilmember Brzezinski uses ambivalent. I'm a little ambivalent on the Thursday hours. I think the concern is, for me at the moment, is the combination of the entertainment with the late night hours. That area is closer to residences than some of the other spots downtown, so I'm a little concerned there. I do agree that often the weekend starts downtown on Thursday nights. The question that I'm wrestling with, and I'm open to hearing from other council members, is midnight or 11:30 that much of an imposition on the restauranting public compared to a 2 a.m. close, when we keep in mind that food has to be served with alcohol at that point in the evening. So I'm looking for other thoughts as well. Vice Mayor Spector.
Thank you. I think that the debate or consideration of what is reasonable at a location like the former Valeriano's, whether they on a Thursday night should be closing at 11 p.m. or midnight or 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., whatever, that is a good issue to discuss because one can debate it either way. You can say, well, there's the people who live on Broadway, it's going to increase more foot traffic. There are the people who live right across the street over Boulanger. So you have these issues, but I think that these are the issues that should be debated within the context of a revisit, which we are going to have, of our alcohol policy, so that when we keep the hours that we have now in the policy, or when we change them, we will have the opportunity to have the public weigh in. And so that's how I would like to see the process move forward, as opposed to making these decisions on one specific application.
Councilmember Brzezinski.
And I would remind the council that when we gave approvals to those other projects, it was predicated on the fact that once we've established the entertainment policy and revised the alcohol policy, that it's retroactive, so that they will come under the umbrella of that policy as well. So I do think that that there is merit to our moving to accommodate the current status without major revisions of the application as the Planning Commission outlined it.
Okay. Councilmember Leonardis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought about what Council Member Brzezinski just mentioned, and in some respects, you're doing a favor to the applicant because you're promising them, you can operate at these hours, but at a future time, we might be pulling the rug out from under you based on what our policy says then. So if you get used to operating a certain way and then your hours get cut way back, we're doing you a favor in the short run, but in the long run, we might not be doing you a favor. It also puts pressure on us looking at each and every existing business's hours and trying to craft a policy around that. And it just makes it, every one of these things that we let through without a policy, it makes it more difficult down the road to try to craft a policy to accommodate everybody who's already operating in a certain manner. So it's a love-hate thing, I guess we can call it, or a give-and-take thing. But that's just my general feelings about trying to craft the policy after the fact as opposed to up front.
Okay. Still looking for if anybody wishes to make a motion. I'm seeing none. Let me throw something out and see. I'm not going to make a motion. I'm more put it out for council consideration. Trying to be consistent. I have been in favor or voted in favor of conditional use permits where we allow a certain amount of entertainment with the condition that it will be subject to the entertainment ordinance when and if it actually shows up, because I don't think it's fair for us to inhibit a business from opening the way they want to open, provided they understand that the rules can change down the road because of our inaction. I mean, I've been sitting on this body for 4 years. I was on the Planning Commission for 2.5, and the entertainment and alcohol policy has been coming soon for that 7 years. So, and I just don't think it's fair to make every applicant wait. So I'm intrigued by the idea of allowing entertainment solely for truly closed events, as the manager had described them. Can't buy a ticket to it. It's a corporate event. The restaurant's not open to the regular public. I think that will have a very different look and feel than charging a cover charge, as the manager said. I'm not sure 8's the right number. I think that's a lot in a month. I might be more interested in 4 to 6, something like that. But I'm open to that idea because I think it sounds like it's integral to this particular applicant's business plan, recognizing that it runs with the land. I'm still a little uncomfortable with the late night on Thursday night. So I'm kind of leaning towards maybe going with the Planning Commission recommendation for hours and such with the allowance of the live entertainment. I'll pick a number and I will say 5 times a month for truly closed events that are corporate in nature, where the restaurant is completely taken by a signal user and not open to the general public. Does that sound like something that, Mr. Manager, go ahead?
It's not staff recommendation, but after Mr. Leonardis first raised that concept that you just mentioned as well, and earlier today, staff had discussed that could best be accommodated in the operating agreement under condition 13. So it's not something that runs with the land and clearly would be subject to the future action of council on the alcohol and entertainment policy if you chose to go that path, if there's a council majority to do that.
Even better. Thank you. So I'd like to hear council input on that. Anybody? Councilmember Leonardis.
Well, I want to be sympathetic towards this applicant and their idea in the sense that, they have an idea of how they want to operate their business. I want to be open-minded towards that. At the same time, I wouldn't want to grant them anything that could change later when the policy is finally crafted, or we would feel the pressure to craft policy around because it's already existing. And the reason why I asked the applicant how long it was going to take for him to come up with his plans, come up with his build, and come up with his launch is because we currently are working on the entertainment policy. And the reason why I asked Ms. Savage about if there was any alternatives, could he come in and maybe if we don't have our policy crafted in the next 6 months and he has a corporate event or 2 planned within 1 month time, could he come in individually and say, could I have a DJ here till 11:30 this evening? I don't ever anticipate seeing a DJ until 1:30 or 2 in the morning under any circumstances, only because I feel the residents across the street that could get too loud, but who knows? But to make a long story short, I think, if there's some kind of compromise in the interim like that without going around the recommendations of the Planning Commission entirely, but without trying to say in the future, we're going to or we're going to allow them to move forward with the DJ concept, and then in the future when we craft the policy, perhaps that won't exist, might be the fairest approach. I'm just trying to be creative here, but I'm interested in seeing how the other council members feel about that.
Okay. Vice Mayor Spector.
I have a question of staff. Old Town has had a challenge with entertainment and the noise it creates, but I vaguely seem to recall that some of the restaurants there have had the opportunity to have private events with no external music, doors closed, private event. Am I remembering incorrectly? And what I specifically think I remembered was a wedding. But it may be a different CUP.
It appears Ms. Savage is doing a quick scan of the CUPs to see if there is anything allowed.
Staff does not see anything explicitly stated in the conditional use permits for the Old Town area. Have not checked the Steamers application. However, it's possible that using an outdoor area would qualify as something that would require a special event.
Vice Mayor.
Well, just forget about whether it's wine cellar or whatever. could a restaurant just close its doors to the public and have a private function?
Yes, within the confines of their conditional use permit. Limiting it so that they weren't exceeding the maximum number of seats, the hours of operation, etc.
So is that a yes?
Yes.
So Enoteca, just to choose another restaurant, could close their doors and have a private party that only has food, beer, and wine. They couldn't offer hard alcohol. They couldn't offer entertainment of any sort, of live entertainment of any sort, and they couldn't go beyond their hours. That's permitted, even as a closed event.
Go ahead.
Thank you. All right. As we know, I'm not a big fan of having entertainment before we have an entertainment policy and having going outside the hours of the alcohol policy. But I guess what I'm not getting is if it's truly a private function, for example, the wedding I'm talking about, and the restaurant closes its doors and it's not open to the public, what I'm hearing is they can have, I mean, they may not be able to have music, live music, but whatever their CUP allows, they can do.
Another way, live entertainment is not allowed unless explicitly provided by this council, whether it's a private event or not a private event. That's the way it probably did.
Yeah, and I guess that's where I'm having my challenge, because I think that there may have been unamplified music at the Old Town things.
Okay.
And from the council study session, one of the issues you laid out was amplified music versus unamplified, live versus recorded. And those are issues that are being evaluated for the entertainment policy.
Councilmember Brzezinski.
And just to note for the council, in our packet, there was an audit of the restaurants that could or could not use, or could or could not allow entertainment. And Steamers and the Wine Cellar are indicated as it's allowed, and California Cafe is it's not allowed. Okay.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah, if I can follow up on that, this chart has come up before, and I may have even had the same staff people. The issue is exactly what are the conditions on the entertainment that's being allowed, and one of the big issues is amplified, not amplified. So where it says allowed, what it doesn't explain is exactly what is the entertainment that is being allowed.
Ms. Brzezinski.
And it's my recollection that in the Wine Cellar, for example, it has to be non-amplified music. They actually came in asking once upon a time to convert at a certain point in the evening to a dance floor, move some tables out, put a dance floor in, have amplified live entertainment, and we disallowed it. We also had some issues with the decibels that would go outside into the neighborhood, and so the Vice Mayor is correct that it's just because it says allowed doesn't mean it's carte blanche. That there are some restrictions that need to be imposed. My position at this point, Mr. Mayor, and you asked for input.
I did.
My current orientation is to go with the Planning Commission's recommendation, and to go with the Planning Commission's recommendation in all its components, including the Thursday night restriction. I will admit I do not see the integrity issue of the disc jockey, or as was framed, the musical host, to the restaurant component. I'm not I'm not in your business, and it's not my business plan, it's your business plan. But given the complexity of the discussion and the next steps in the process where we will have an entertainment policy, I would be inclined to make the motion to grant the applicant's request to modify the conditional use permit, and to operate a restaurant with a separate bar and full alcohol service on the property zone C2 LHP with an APN of 52903-020. That is the recommendation. I think we can make the findings as could the Planning Commission in Attachment 1 and approve the conditional use permit with the modifications recommended by the Planning Commission, and those modifications were specified in the staff report and in the conditions of approval as Exhibit A of Attachment 2.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second?
And if I might,
Please.
as with the prior application, the proposed use sounds very appealing. So does this one, and it may very well be that the hours that are being requested may someday come into play under a different alcohol policy. It may very well be that the entertainment will come into play under a future entertainment policy. But I think that for consistency, for transparency, for predictability, we need to do this a step at a time and do the policies first and then look at the applications. I do appreciate what the mayor said about the time that the alcohol and entertainment policies have been in play, although I truly, truly think that this time we will get to them sooner rather than later.
Okay, we have a motion. Councilmember Leonardis.
If I could ask another question of staff. So assuming that the applicant, we go with the Planning Commission's recommendations here, and the applicant decides to move forward with the proposal as approved, and then later on we craft the entertainment policy, and there is a provision in there for a musical host, a DJ, whatever we're calling it. Does this applicant have to come back and do a CUP modification? Is it something that can be expedited? Is it something that's going to take them a significant period of time in the future?
As council members highlighted earlier, it can be difficult to implement entertainment standards after the fact. What that process looks like and what it will entail in terms of the deciding body and permits, we do not know just yet.
I think that's direction the council could give at the time of approving an entertainment permit of how to handle the ones that have the future implementation clauses or ones like this that may be waiting implementation. The council can provide direction at the time of the approval of the entertainment policy. If I could also clarify the motion for staff, does that include the number of seats occupancy condition that was in the desk item or the original condition? There was an added line that answered a council's question on the occupancy.
Yes. My assumption is it is what is currently in the conditions in Exhibit A, okay?
So without
Attachment
the
2.
added line,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Any other discussion? I'm going to support the motion, even though I'm actually still in favor of allowing the musical host, I guess you call it. Again, for consistency, I've believed that we shouldn't limit what a business wants to do because of our own inaction, as long as it's not going to be significantly detrimental. I don't think this would be for private parties, but I'm going to support the motion because I want to get you an approval, and I think the rest of your application is well within what we would what I'm comfortable with approving for that site. So with that, any other comments? Councilmember Leonardis?
I'll weigh in on that as well. I'd like to be sympathetic towards new ideas and new business proposals, and this definitely is a interesting proposal. And I also think of the corporate parties which I've attended in the past, and they don't seem to move along quite without an MC or somebody up there speaking on a regular occasion. On the flip side of that, I don't envision this type of situation where you have a DJ who's allowed to spin records or push iPods till 2 in the morning. If some future ownership were able to get a hold of this conditional use permit in this location. So I'm hoping that there could be some kind of a compromise reached in the future. I'm hoping that this applicant will move forward with their idea, and perhaps there can be some kind of creative plan that can be put forth to allow this applicant to ultimately get what they want to run their business at the same time without going against the recommendations of the Planning Commission and the Police Department about what's currently proposed.
Okay. Councilmember Brzezinski.
I just want to make real clear, and we're not talking about 2 in the morning. That's not part of the application. That's been tossed a couple of times, and that must be for some theoretical restaurant that's not currently in front of us. But I do believe that that the direction we're taking now is the appropriate direction, and I do appreciate the mayor's orientation and Councilmember Leonardis' orientation towards attempting to provide opportunities for businesses to develop their plans, and they're the ones who've taken the risk, after all. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I don't think this precludes someone standing up and speaking to a group in a gathering of business persons either. It has this narrow exclusion of the entertainment, which we're calling DJ at this time. So I think I feel very comfortable with the direction and the consensus I'm hearing from council.
All right, I'll go ahead and call the question. Those in favor of the motion to approve signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Now we also have to adopt a resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm going to move to adopt a resolution of approval recommending the conditions for the conditional use permit to modify an existing CUP to operate a restaurant with separate bar katsu with full alcohol service on property zone C2LHP as noted in attachment 2 in the staff report.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Again, carries 4-0. That concludes our agenda for this evening. We are adjourned.